My name is Emily Caldwell. I'm 33, and I've spent most of my adult life calculating how to keep the people I love afloat without sinking myself. My 7-year-old son, Liam, is obsessed with planets and spaceships, and his laugh has a gravity all its own. It's the anchor in my life, though sometimes it feels like I'm orbiting chaos anyway. 3 years ago, I made a vow. You'll never worry again. My parents had been living on the edge for decades. My dad's back finally gave out after years of ladder work. My mom's wrists ached with arthritis that flared like a storm whenever the weather changed. Bills piled up, prescriptions went unpaid, and I could hear the strain in every word when they called. "We're drowning, Em," my mom would say, voice trembling over the line, and I felt the urge to fix it all, to be the calm in their storm. I did what I thought anyone with half a heart would do. I set up a $700 automatic transfer every Friday. I paused the shared grocery cart under my name, took over the phone and internet bills. I built spreadsheets and made notes because numbers, unlike people, rarely lied. For a while, it felt like I was buying peace, like I could create stability with dollars and careful tracking. Maybe I was buying a version of myself that didn't feel like the scared kid I'd been. Mark, my boyfriend, was quietly supportive. He helped when I asked, but never judged the frenzy in my spreadsheet-strewn kitchen. He understood the quiet pressure I carried, the guilt that came with every swipe of a card, the obligation that had been drilled into me since childhood. Mark's presence was a calm counterpoint to the constant storm of parental need. I grew up in a house where money was a constant guest at the table, loud, intrusive, and uninvited, yet somehow always served first. Rent dates were circled in red, car repairs whispered threats, grocery change counted like evidence. I started working at 16, taking bagger, tutoring, and busboy jobs. Numbers became my sanctuary because they didn't manipulate or complain. College was cheap, but not free. I paid my share because that's what families do, or at least what I thought we should do. When Liam was born, I swore he would never feel like a bill or a responsibility shoved onto his father's or my back. I wanted him to know money was a tool, not a ghost. Then, as always, life reminded me that control is a fragile illusion. My dad slipped off a porch step one chilly morning, and his work slowed, then stopped. My mom's hours at the bakery were cut. That December, she called. No tears, just a quiet exhale over the line. "Em, I don't know how we're going to get through winter." That night, I did the math. Income, rent, groceries, prescriptions. $700 weekly would keep them above water, maybe just barely. I added them as authorized users on a grocery card, took over their utilities, the internet, the phone plan. Relief in their voices felt sacred, and for a while, gratitude washed through the household like sunlight. Dad would text, "Thank you, kiddo. Too many spaces." Mom would send a photo of stew. "Look, we're eating good." Months became seasons. Gratitude morphed into habit into expectation. Small, insidious things, extra spa days, surprise grocery splurges, Mia asking for money for baby shower favors before her maternity leave even started. Every time I hesitated, a quiet voice reminded me of my vow. You'll never worry again. And so I didn't, not yet. Emily Caldwell, careful, meticulous, exhausted, and fiercely loyal. That was me. I thought I was buying peace, but the first cracks would appear on a Saturday morning, with pizza boxes and little chairs arranged in a small backyard for Liam's 7th birthday. Mark helped me set up the bubble machine. The smell of sugar from cupcakes floated in the spring air. Liam's friends sprinted through shimmering bubbles, shrieking with delight. My parents, I believed, would arrive like they always said they would. I taped a paper rocket to the fence, steadying my trembling hands as the doorbell rang. And that's when I realized no amount of money, care, or spreadsheets could guarantee loyalty. The backyard was alive with laughter and chaos. Little feet ran over the grass, leaving damp footprints on the cement. Liam's friends clutched paper crowns and party favors, their excitement spilling like the bubbles drifting through the air. I held the tape dispenser in one hand, steadying a crooked paper rocket with the other. Mark leaned against the fence, quiet but watchful, letting me have my space while keeping an eye on Liam. My phone buzzed. It was Mom. "Where should we park? Your street is messy." I smiled, trusting the words I'd heard 1,000 times. "Down by the corner." Save us a slice, I texted. And then she hung up. I believed it. I always believed it. Through the cake song, Liam's shy bow, the excited chaos of opening presents. My heart thrummed in the way it always did when love and expectation collided. But then my phone buzzed again. Not a text, but a social media tag. My sister Mia had posted a boomerang from a baby shower, pastel balloons, a white cake in pink script, my parents clapping in the background. The location? Mia's shower. I froze. The sky outside seemed unreal, almost too blue. I called Mom. One ring, voicemail. Then a text. We're not obligated to show up for everyone's kids. Don't be dramatic. Short, sharp, mean, like little stones tossed at my chest. And then there it was, an Amazon gift, $10, with the note, Happy birthday, Liam, Nana, and Pop. Mark saw the change in my expression. What happened? He asked softly. I handed him the phone. His face tightened. Oh, he murmured, not needing more words. I looked over at Liam, holding his paper crown, oblivious to the betrayal behind our screens. Can you tape this for me, Mom? He asked, trust glowing in his eyes. I taped it crooked on purpose. He liked it that way. He glanced toward the gate again. I heard the unspoken question. Where are they? As the last of the kids waved goodbye, I sat on the back step, phone vibrating silently in my hand. My thumb hovered over the screen. The paper rockets drooped. The sprinkler left wet dots on the cement. Liam lined up his new cars on the porch, smiling with his whole face. I kept my voice even when I spoke to him. We had a good party, kiddo. Yeah, we did, he said. But inside, a storm had erupted. I thought of every Friday, every $700 transfer, every grocery card swipe, every utility bill I'd covered. 3 years of devotion, of careful planning and sacrifice, reduced to a short text and a $10 gift. I thought about my parents, about my vow. You'll never worry again. Was it too much to ask for the barest acknowledgement? Had my generosity been twisted into expectation? Mia's voice echoed in my memory. Can you Venmo me $85 for the shower favors? I'll pay you back when my maternity leave kicks in. At first, I'd smiled and agreed. Later, I'd hesitated. Now I understood the pattern. Gratitude had decayed into entitlement. I sat on the step, heart tight, watching Liam play, and realized that the first crack in the foundation had arrived, not with anger, but with that short, mean text. I didn't reply, not yet. I let the moment hang, heavy and cold. For the first time in years, I allowed myself to feel the weight of the choice before me, keep bending under the weight of family expectation, or finally set boundaries. Mark placed a hand on my shoulder. I leaned into it. Quietly, I knew what had to be done next. The quiet hum of the neighborhood felt different now, as if the world itself had shifted. I had loved and given, but giving blindly was over. Liam's trust, my sanity, our home, it all depended on what I did next. And for the first time, I felt the stirrings of a plan. That night, after Liam fell asleep with frosting still smudged on his cheek, I sat at the kitchen table, laptop open, spreadsheets glowing in the dim light. Every transaction from the past 3 years stared back at me. $700 transfers every Friday, grocery card charges, utilities, internet, phone bills, Venmo requests. The numbers didn't lie. I had spent a fortune ensuring my parents lived comfortably while keeping Liam insulated from financial worry. Mark leaned against the doorway, quiet but present. You can't keep doing this forever, he said softly. I know, I whispered, though the guilt bubbled immediately. I want them safe. I promise them. Mark shook his head carefully. Being safe doesn't mean you sacrifice yourself or Liam. It's okay to put boundaries. I stared at the numbers again, feeling a cold clarity seep in. It wasn't just money, it was control. They'd turned my care into expectation, my generosity into obligation. And now, for Liam's sake, I needed a plan. I started typing a message to my mother, but deleted it. Then I drafted another and another. None felt enough. The anger, hurt, and frustration were impossible to convey in a few lines. Then it hit me. Facts. Receipts, dates, evidence. Numbers don't manipulate. Numbers don't twist words into guilt. I made a decision. Pause the shared grocery card. No more surprise splurges. Pay bills directly to providers, not to my parents. Keep the $700 weekly transfer, but nothing extra until a new plan was agreed. Create a Zoom call to present the facts calmly, removing room for misinterpretation. Mark nodded. I'll back you. You don't have to do it alone. The next day, I scheduled the Zoom. The faces on the screen, my father's tired eyes, my mother's defensive glare, Mia's smirk from her car selfie angle, felt heavier than usual. I took a deep breath. I've been supporting you for 3 years, I began. $700 every Friday. Groceries, internet, utilities, all documented. The grocery card has been used for non-essentials. I'm pausing it. Bills will be paid directly. Transfers remain $700 until we reevaluate in 60 days. This is not punishment. This is protection. Of Liam, of myself, and yes, of you. Mia snorted, sharp and cruel. 60 days? Like you're the bank? Like we're your tenants? I'm not a bank, I said. I'm your daughter, and I'm responsible for Liam. That's the boundary. The rest, we'll manage. Mom's arms crossed, eyes narrowing. You made a promise. Never worry again. Yes. Stability, not a blank check, I said evenly. Stability includes showing up for your grandson when you say you will. The call spiraled, as it always did. Accusations flew. Voices rose. Mia's mocking laughter cut through the calm. But I stayed centered. I shared screenshots, receipts, and bank statements. I didn't yell. I didn't beg. I let the evidence speak. Finally, my father sighed, small and weary. We counted on you, he admitted, almost quietly. I know, I said, and that's the problem. I've been too much of a safety net. That ends tonight. Not because I don't love you, but because I love Liam more. Mom gasped, sharp and incredulous. Boundaries? You think you're our parent? I'm not, but I am his mother, and I'm done letting our family's history, this constant cycle of need, dictate our present. Mia rolled her eyes, huffed, and the call ended with tension so thick I could almost taste it. But in the quiet aftermath, a small sense of relief crept in. The first crack had become action. I sank into the kitchen chair, staring at the dark screen. Mark squeezed my shoulder gently. You did the right thing, he said. I nodded, thinking of Liam, his small hand gripping mine when he swung it too wide in the park, and realized something vital. For the first time, my care wasn't optional. It was intentional. Boundaries were love, not rejection. And for the first time in years, I slept knowing that the foundation beneath me was mine to shape. 2 days after the Zoom, the knock came at the door. Not polite, soft, like an inquiry. This was sharp, insistent, impossible to ignore. I opened it to see my parents standing there, each weighed down with 2 suitcases, a laundry basket, and a plastic plant I immediately recognized from their living room. Behind them, Mia filmed with her phone, ready to broadcast every moment like it was a spectacle. We're here, Mom said, her voice thin and strained. Her eyes darted past me, sizing me up like I was a challenge she hadn't anticipated. No, I said calmly. You gave notice without a plan. You cannot move in here. I have Liam. This is not a shelter. Dad's shoulders slumped, small and weary, the quiet weight of helplessness in his stance. We don't have anywhere, he admitted softly. I stepped aside, closing the door behind me to shield Liam from the scene. I'll pay for a motel for a few nights, I said. I'll drive you to the housing office in the morning. I'll help with forms and prescriptions, but you will not move in here. That boundary is not cruelty. It's what keeps Liam safe. Mom's face turned red. So we're strangers now? Yes, I said, steady, because you've turned my help into a plan that serves only your convenience. That stops tonight. Mia lifted her phone again, lips curling into that infuriating smirk. Everyone's going to see what you're doing, she threatened. I pulled out a folder of evidence, bank statements, transfers, grocery receipts, Venmo requests, and let her see everything calmly. I didn't shout. I didn't plead. I simply laid out the truth. 3 years, every Friday, every dollar, every bill, every swipe, and now the consequences. Mia stomped her foot. I'm not staying at a motel. You're not, I repeated firmly. It's temporary. You have options. You will get help, but not at the expense of Liam's stability. Mom watched, her face a mask of disbelief. Dad sighed, his voice almost tender. We'll take the motel. By the next morning, I had them settled. Clean sheets, quiet room, minimal decor. I drove them to the housing office, sat with them while they filled out forms, made calls to doctors for prescription vouchers, and arranged food pantry deliveries disguised as friendly favors. Every step was calculated, compassionate, but firm. Back home, Liam built a paper rocket, lining up toy astronauts across the kitchen counter. Are Nana and Pop mad? He asked. They're adjusting, I said, choosing words carefully. His trust, his sense of safety, came first. At night, I created a simple two-column ledger: boundaries and responsibilities, a map for the weeks ahead. It was precise, protective, and unemotional because love sometimes needs rules to survive. By the end of the week, the group chat had erupted. Screenshots of my calm assertiveness, my cold efficiency, were circulating among relatives. Opinions flew. Some applauded, some condemned. Only one cousin, Rachel, contributed $50 for Liam's rocket projects. Small gestures, but meaningful. I closed my laptop and exhaled. The world was still chaotic. My parents still imperfect, Mia still provocative. But for the first time, I felt a fragile kind of control. Liam's laughter echoed in the quiet apartment, grounding me. I realized then, boundaries, however difficult to enforce, were not cruelty. They were love in action. And in the midst of tension, betrayal, and expectation, I felt something I hadn't felt in years: clarity, peace, agency. Weeks passed, and the motel became a temporary bridge. My parents, initially defensive and proud, began to accept that I was no longer their unlimited safety net. Mia's snarky updates quieted as she realized public opinion couldn't dictate my choices. I continued the $700 transfers every Friday, but only after verifying bills and prescriptions. The grocery card remained paused. Essentials were delivered directly or paid for online. It wasn't punishment, it was structure. And in the structure, for the first time, I felt real freedom. Liam noticed. He adapted effortlessly, the way children do. Big kid, everything's okay, I said one morning, watching him pack his backpack. We're all adjusting, buddy. His grin, full and unreserved, told me I was doing the right thing. He didn't need perfection. He needed boundaries, and I had finally given them. By the second week, I drove my parents to their new apartment. Small, quiet, with a working elevator and maple trees outside the window. The manager handed over keys and rules. No candles, no unapproved guests. Mom touched the countertop as if it offended her. Dad patted the couch lightly. They weren't thrilled, but they were safe, independent, and above all, responsible for their own lives. I left before the weight of old expectations could settle back onto my shoulders. Liam and I walked home, the spring air warm on our skin, his hand in mine. Are Nana and Pop mad? He asked again. They're adjusting, I said. That was enough. He trusted me, and that trust was my anchor. Back home, I made a simple chart. What I control, what I protect, what I refuse to carry. A daily reminder that love doesn't mean drowning, and care doesn't mean obliteration of self. I continued to support my parents, but in a sustainable, controlled way. I could love them without enabling damage. Liam's space, our routines, our peace, protected. And slowly, a quiet joy returned. I sent groceries once a month. I helped with prescriptions. But no longer did I feel like the constant firefighter of their chaos. I was a mother first, a daughter second, and finally, a woman who understood that boundaries are the architecture of love. Liam drew a rocket on the fridge, the two of us inside, labeled safe. I held his hand, feeling the truth in that word. This was the life I promised him. This was the love he deserved. For the first time in years, I slept without the creeping dread of unpaid bills, last-minute surprises, or impossible expectations. The world hadn't become perfect, but it had become manageable. I had finally learned the hardest lesson of all. Saying no doesn't abandon anyone. It preserves everything that matters. Boundaries weren't just a shield. They were the lifeline to safety, love, and sanity. And for Liam, for me, and for even my parents, they were the beginning of a new chapter.